That night began like any other late walk home until I noticed the streetlights flickering in a pattern that matched my own breathing, and for a second I could have sworn the shadows beneath the poles stretched toward me like they recognized me. And the deeper I walked into that silent neighborhood, the more the air felt wrong, as if something was pressing against the inside of my skull, whispering without a voice, and I kept telling myself I was just tired until I saw the first figure standing, completely still beside an abandoned house, dressed in something like a long coat, but the fabric didn't fall naturally. It clung to its shape, like wet skin, and when my eyes tried to focus on its face, the darkness bent out of the way like it didn't want me to see what was underneath, and I sped up pretending I didn't notice, but my footsteps didn't echo alone anymore. There was a second rhythm slightly behind mine, heavier, slower, like it was learning how to walk just by copying me, and I glanced back. But the street was empty, so I forced myself forward, counting each breath. But the moment I passed the old crossing sign, I heard the most unnatural sound, like knuckles dragging across asphalt, long, slow, and patient, following me with a certainty that made my spine lock in place, and the fear in my chest twisted so hard I felt dizzy. But I kept moving until I reached the alley shortcut I always used, and the moment I stepped into it, the temperature dropped so violently my skin prickled, as if 1,000 cold fingertips were brushing across me all at once, and halfway down the alley, I realized I could hear something breathing right behind me, deep, like it had lungs too large to fit inside anything human. And when I tried to turn around, my neck refused, like instinct itself was screaming not to look. So I ran full speed out of the alley, stumbling onto the next street, and the instant I reached the light, I heard a metallic scraping far behind me, like something tall had stepped out, and its limbs scratched the. I didn't sleep at all after that night, because the moment the shadow crossed my bedroom doorway, the lights in the entire house died, as if sucked out from the walls, and something moved toward me without sound, not walking, not crawling, but gliding with a weight that made the floorboards tremble. And when it stopped inches away from me, I felt its presence like cold pressure pushing against my ribs from the inside, and every instinct I had was screaming to run, but my muscles refused, as if they were pinned by invisible hooks, and the smell that drifted from it wasn't rot or dirt, but something older, like dust from a place sealed for centuries. And as I stood frozen, I heard a low shifting sound behind me, like another shape entering the room. And that's when I realized the shadow in front of me wasn't alone. It had brought something smaller, something faster, and the air at my back quivered, as if tiny footsteps were running up the wall behind me. And when I finally jerked myself free, I sprinted out of the bedroom, slamming the door behind me. But the door didn't stop anything, it just bent inward, as if something inside was pushing its palms slowly into the wood, testing its texture. And when the pressure stopped, I didn't wait to see what came next. I ran outside barefoot into the cold street. But the neighborhood felt different, more hollow, more watched. And every window I passed looked darker than it should have, like the glass was filled with ink. And halfway down the road, I noticed the streetlights weren't flickering anymore. They were bending their glow toward me, following my movement like a spotlight, and shadows of tall, thin limbs stretched across the pavement, even though nothing stood near them. And I ran toward the only open place I could think of, the old overpass near the bus station. But the moment I reached it, I felt the same cold pulse in my chest, the same silent pressure, as if the thing from my room had arrived before me and was waiting above the tunnel, listening to the echo of my FO. I kept moving through the empty streets without knowing where my legs were taking me, because some part of me understood that I wasn't choosing the direction anymore. Something else was nudging my instincts, twisting my sense of distance, until familiar roads felt stretched and wrong, and the world around me seemed slightly tilted, like the city itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to arrive. And when I finally stopped, I realized I was standing outside the old industrial district, a place everyone avoided after dark because the factories had shut down years ago, leaving behind gutted buildings, hollow rooms, and corridors that echoed like tombs. And even though I tried to tell myself to turn back, my body walked toward the rusted gate on its own, and the gate creaked open before I touched it, as if welcoming something it had been ordered to let in. And as I stepped inside, the darkness thickened like smoke settling over my skin, and the silence felt heavier than any sound could have. Because beneath it, I sensed the vibration of movement, hundreds of tiny skittering patterns in the walls, like dozens of small shapes crawling just out of sight. And when I reached the main warehouse door, it slid open slowly, revealing an enormous empty space, lit only by the faint glow of a single hanging bulb swaying gently, even though there was no wind. And right beneath that light stood the tall figure from before, its shape clearer, now though still wrong, bent at angles that defied any human posture, its limbs too long, its torso narrowing into something sharp, and its head tilted as if listening to the sound of my heartbeat. And just as I stepped back, I heard another sound from behind, a soft dragging pattern, like someone pulling cloth across concrete. And when I turned around, I saw smaller shadows gathering near the corners of the warehouse, shapes that crawled on all fours with jerky, unnatural movements, and their bodies twitched like they were adjusting to bones that didn't belong to them. And then, when the darkness swallowed the warehouse, I felt my body unraveling the way a thread pulls free from cloth, as if every memory I had was loosening from the inside. And the cold touch on my chest spread outward in slow circling waves, sinking beneath my ribs and twisting around my heart, like something invisible was coiling itself inside me. And the world around me changed from darkness to a dim humming glow, like the air itself had begun to breathe. And when I finally forced my eyes open, I wasn't standing anymore. I was suspended barely above the ground as black tendrils held me in place, rising like smoke from the floor and attaching themselves to my arms, my legs, my spine, like they were studying the shape of my body, trying to see how well it fit their purpose. And across the warehouse, I saw the tall figure standing motionless, its head tilted back, as if receiving something from the shadows around it. And beneath it, the smaller crawling shapes scurried in chaotic circles, each one twitching, like they were waiting for a signal that hadn't arrived yet. And the moment I tried to move, the tendrils tightened, pressing against my bones with a pressure that wasn't meant to hurt, but to warn. And that was when I understood the truth that snapped inside me, with a realization sharper than fear. The creature wasn't just claiming me, it was preparing me. And the cold, voiceless presence inside my skull formed a thought that wasn't mine, but echoed like it belonged deep within the marrow of the earth. You are the passage. And the room shifted as the walls bulged outward, like something enormous was pushing from the other side, stretching the metal, as if the warehouse was only a thin, fragile skin. And a crack ripped across the far wall, spilling a thick, dark mist from the opening. And the mist slithered along the floor, moving with purpose straight toward me. And as it curled around my legs, it pulsed, warm, then freezing, then warm again, like it was testing my temperature, checking compatibility. And the tall figure